Hello, my friends. Let's talk about the astrology for the week of July 14th through July 20th. We'll talk about a lot of lunar events that we have going on, the moon in certain signs. But the big news for this week is Mercury is going a retrograde. And depending on where you live, it's either on the 17th or the 18th of July. And we'll get to that. But let's do the 14th first. So let me share the screen with you and we'll get started. Takes just a second for the screen to share. Get my face over here. Come on, I'm ready for it to share. Let's go Zoom. There we go. All right, terrific. So we're going to start off on Monday, July 14th. And what we have for today is the moon is in Pisces and throughout the day. So starting at like 10 in the morning through 10 at night, it makes a few aspects. So it connects with Jupiter, squares Venus, and later in the day, it will make a quincunx aspect to Mercury. That isn't actually on the screen, but it's there. So what happens when we have the moon in Pisces, first off, is incredibly sensitive, and we're looking for a lot of flow. And the trine aspect with Jupiter feels very easy and very dreamy. And we usually can feel like there's opportunities for us if we allow the flow. But that Venus, the square to Venus in Gemini, mutable square, moon in Pisces, Venus in Gemini, that 90-degree angle between the two is like a disconnect in communication. Venus in Gemini right now is about valuing what we love and what we communicate and really bringing that together. And then that hard aspect, that quincunx aspect to Mercury, as Mercury is stationing to go retrograde in a couple of days from this chart, we have this very much makes the day feel like a bit of a roller coaster. Like we start off, because the first aspect is to Jupiter, we start off feeling like things are going well, things are flowing, there's a lot of action and movement, a lot of emotion, things feel really good. The connection with Venus can bring us a fair amount of social connections, gathering of information, but that hard aspect to Mercury, who's the ruler of Gemini, as it's slowing down to retrograde, we can be just overstimulated and it gives us, we just feel overwhelmed. So basically, in a nutshell, on July 14th, we can feel inspired to connect, to create, to dream big. And we just have to be careful not to overdo it, thanks to Jupiter, and not to overextend ourselves, right? And just to begin the day and hopefully allow the day, fingers crossed, right, that it can remain light and playful. And if things do become a bit tough or confusing, it's just important to just move through that. Don't fight against it. Don't make a big fuss over something if it isn't working well. Because again, that Mercury, that moon quincunx Mercury, that's not till 10:40 p.m. Eastern, but it can create a fair amount of stress. And so we don't really want that. Okay. I know it's not an easy aspect. We also have, as far as the parallels and contraparallels, that's this stuff over here. Pluto and Jupiter are in a contraparallel aspect with each other. They're not connected over in here at all, but they are here. And this measurement tells us that we're feeling the need to expand, but also we could feel like we don't have enough control to do that. All right. And then the Venus and Uranus have come together as a parallel measurement. And we can go over here and see that the Venus-Uranus sector has nothing in it. That means they're not connected by the zodiac, but they are connected by where they are in space. And so we have this, Venus is part of today's aspects too. So we have this connection between the two, which is about the sudden information coming at us, which is where that Mercury quincunx, the moon quincunx Mercury comes in at the end of the day, where we can feel like, oh, I didn't get all the information. Or we end the day knowing that we have to start the next day with just with a big bang, right? And just get to it. Because you know how you just run out of time in a day and you've finished almost all the projects and you just know, well, I can finish this tomorrow. It's that type of a feel as well. So a little bit of a roller coaster, a lot of emotion, a lot of feeling, and the moon will stay in the sign of Pisces all day on the 15th as well. So let's go pop that chart up, and here it is. And it stays in the sign of Pisces, and throughout the day, it just makes early in the morning, it makes an opposition to Mars, and then it's in a trine aspect with the sun. And the energy of that isn't quite so hard. So it just gives us the energy of well, the opposition to Mars. First off, Mars will give us just a little push towards focusing on some details, because that's that Mars in Virgo. But when the moon makes that trine aspect to the sun, we're coming into that fourth quarter, that last quarter pretty soon. And it is a period for us to feel a little more reflective, right? So we have an opportunity to be a little more reflective with the sun and the moon both in water signs. So a little bit of spirituality, a little bit of creativity. And since the sun is still in the sign of Cancer, that just gives us this period of feeling the need to stay settled at home or to gather family closer. What does that look like for you? It's a little bit different for everybody. So it's still not a difficult connection when the sun and the moon are in a trine aspect. So I don't feel it is overly difficult, but it's still an aspect. As Mercury is stationing, look, it's stuck at 15 degrees. If you go back to the last chart, you can see 15 degrees. That's the 14th. Here's July 15th. Mercury's at 15 degrees. 15 degrees of a fixed sign is pretty difficult. Talk about that shortly. All right. Moving on to Wednesday, the 16th, Eastern time, just after midnight, the moon, yeah, that's not the chart on the screen. I have noon, but just after midnight, the moon entered Aries. And so as throughout that time frame between midnight and it looks like 4 a.m., the moon came through and made its aspect to Saturn and Neptune, just stirring things up. Both Saturn and Neptune are retrograde in the sign of Aries. The moon in the sign of Aries shows us and highlights the feeling of needing to figuring out what we need, right? That Aries energy is always about that. It's very self-focused. I'm not going to say selfish, but it's self-focused. It's like serving yourself first is really important, like, putting the oxygen mask on first. That kind of, whatever your current situation is, it's important that we take care of our own health and wellness, especially mental health. There's a lot going on in the world these days, and it can really stress people out. So make sure you're taking care of yourself first. And this happens in the middle of the night, at least here in the US. And so with that going on, it's late on the west coast of the US and early in the morning on the 16th on the east coast of the US. So it could be, in dream time that we feel like we're maybe figuring out how to get ahead or how to take care of ourselves better. Go to sleep the night before with that in mind, so you can, maybe problem solve while you're sleeping. Hey, a lot of cultures think that is a really important time period in the day is when we're sleeping, nighttime. All right. Next we have, grab my notes here so I can make sure I got this straight for us. Next, we have that last quarter moon in the sign of Aries. So that means there's a square between the sun and the moon. We're in that waning phase, the last quarter, the last week of this monthly lunar cycle. It's also the last 9 months of the lunar gestation cycle. And first off, when we have the sun and the moon square like this is, excuse me, very fiery, very dynamic, both cardinal signs, meaning that we feel urgency to tie up some loose ends, to finish things up. We need to figure out what we're doing and what isn't working, how we can clear the deck, if you will, to move into something else that is more important for us, especially over the next week or the next 9 months. I'll give you the lunar gestation events in a minute. But when that moon is Aries, I mean, it's just being very feisty. And again, we're feeling this need to take care of ourselves first. So this square between these two, this happens this time every year, approximately within a couple of weeks, when the moon is in Aries squaring the sun in Cancer. It's going to happen every time. Once a year, when the sun is in Cancer, the moon is going to square it from Aries. And so the energy of this just is about getting unstuck by being as authentic as possible. And again, trusting your own feels and insight. Okay. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go to this first quarter. I need to make sure I'm not sure I'm sharing the right screen. Let's take a look. Nope, I'm not. Let's go back to that. There we go. Here's that last quarter. And I want to go to the lunar gestation cycle. So here's that lunar phase. We're going to make sure that's highlighted. A little solar fire lesson here. We'll go current. We'll make sure the lunar family in progress. Hit OK. And here we are. So the astrology for July 17th and that last quarter moon in Aries is what I just said. Now I want we have to go back a long time. So this lunar gestation cycle that's linked to this last quarter was April 20th, 2023. That was the big eclipse that we could see here, especially in the Northeast. You could see it to the Midwest. So April 20th, 2023 was that, and that was big. So it was at 29 degrees of Aries, April 20th, 2023. What were you working on? What were you focusing on? What was your insight? What felt important to you? 29 Aries is one of those anaretic degrees. 29 is the last degree, anaretic degree, and that just means that we're really hyper focused on what it is that zodiac sign represents. So it's Aries, and it represents new starts, initiating new things, taking care of yourself first, just being completely and totally focused on yourself and what your needs are. And again, I know that sounds selfish, but that's okay. We need to do that. And we'll see that. And we're fighting for what we believe in. And we have strength and courage to work through things. That's what started on April 20th, 2023 at a new moon solar eclipse. I remember seeing that with my daughter and my grandson, one of my grandsons. And it was just beautiful to see and be kind of witness it with everybody. What were you doing? What were you focusing on in that time frame? Give yourself a couple days after that date too, to try and remember back. This is why I always recommend we journal at new moons, journal, set new intentions, all of those things. 9 months after that was January 17th, 2024 was the first quarter when we were building whatever it was that we had initiated on April 20th, 2023. Okay, so January 17th, 2024, first quarter moon. So that's a square from the other direction, 27 degrees of Aries. On April 17th, 2024 was the full moon at 24 Aries, where we were able to see what was working, what wasn't, what we wanted to continue on, what had, really good vibes and we wanted to continue with it, and what we would just release and let go. And now we're back to today's chart, the chart that's on this, well, it's not on the screen, but the chart we're talking about currently. So astrology for July 17th, 2025, that last quarter moon in Aries. We have 9 more months to tidy up loose ends, to finish what it is, finish the projects, finish the process, whether it's a healing process, a project process, finish it up. That's what we're going to do for the next 9 months. Especially if this activation really means something to you. Okay. If ever you want to hear more about these things, you guys are here, here on Patreon and the membership platform on YouTube, tier 3 on Patreon, tier 3 and 4, and tier 2 on YouTube. You guys get this ahead of time so you can work with it. If you want to know about your own chart, then you know how to book a session. And if you need help with that, just tell me. All right, the next aspect that I want to talk about, let's get to Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury is retrograde at 9:45 p.m. Pacific time on July 17th, and it is at 12:45 a.m. on July 18th Eastern time. So since that's where I'm at, we're getting it for Eastern time. Mercury retrograde for 3 weeks. Okay. So we'll go retrograde for 3 weeks. Let me get my dates all the way back to August 11th, and it will go back to 4 degrees of Leo. But right now, I want to focus on this 15 degrees of Leo where Mercury is, and that's right here. Okay. Because 15 degrees of any of the fixed zodiac signs is really intense because we just have a hard time moving at that point. We can feel very stuck, and the intensity of it is big. So wherever this 15 degrees of Leo is, any of the fixed signs, 15 Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus, and even here on the East Coast, I am very much on the East Coast in New Hampshire. Even the ascendant and the midheaven, the ascendant and descendant are 15 degrees of a fixed sign. There is something here in New England that for us is really coming to an attention. Here in New England, we are just definitely like granite faces, just pretty stuck in our ways. Let's see how that Uranus and Gemini will help us out someday. But in the meantime, for the rest of us, for all of us, honestly, with Mercury retrograde, things are slowing down so we can revisit those conversations. As we always know, that Mercury retrograde is revisiting conversations, revisiting promises you made, passions, things that you're passionate about, and you decided you wanted to do. That's that Mercury in Leo. It gives us that chance to review those things, and we're certainly not going to rush to any choices, any decisions. And we can feel a little bit stuck right here. Doesn't mean everybody's feeling stuck, because it just depends on what your current life circumstances are. So I never will say a general statement like that everybody's going to feel stuck on July 17th or 18th, because Mercury is retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo. But a lot of people will feel that and feel that frustration, or at least witness it. Take it on if it's yours. Sure, why not? Feel frustrated. What are you frustrated about? Process it. You've got 3 weeks while it's retrograde through August 11th. To process, what you love, what you're passionate about, what you desire. And of course, Mercury is always about that information that we share and what we believe and the stories we tell ourselves. So this is the beginning of it. July 17th, 18th, this is the beginning of it. And so plan ahead, what's asking for your attention that you're not giving it to, and what do you feel frustrated about? So that's what we got working on. Oh my gosh, it's warm. It's not hot flashes, it's just warm in here because it's that time of day, that time of year. Work with that, work on that, work with that, and focus on how you think you can move that energy. Okay. I know it feels frustrating. I certainly will, knowing this as a professional astrologer, just knowing that this is going on. Look at that. It's even sextile Venus. Let's see. They don't get exactly, they're close. Venus hasn't quite got there yet, but they're connected. And then here in New England, it's squaring those things. It's just the ascendant and descendant. What I'm babbling about here is that we can feel frustrated. And if you do, do your best to just process and don't push, You ever put a lock in a key? No, the other way around. Do you ever put a key in a lock and it won't turn because it's rusty or frozen or something, and you just snap the key because you just try too hard? Mm-hmm. That's what happens when we feel frustrated, when especially Mercury retrograde is that's its station, is a fixed sign. Something is stuck for some people, and you can't force it. So you can try and feel really frustrated and try and force it and break that key off in the lock, or you can just take the key out, problem solve, go, I wonder what's wrong. Maybe I would need to put some oil in here because it's rusty. Maybe I need to heat it up because it's frozen. Yeah, I'm in New England. It's cold here all the time. And so, problem solve. Then you can put the key back in and open that lock up and work through the rest of the issue. Okay? hope that analogy, that little metaphor makes sense. Moving on to Saturday, still dealing with all of this Mercury station. It'll go on for a couple of days. And here we have the moon in the sign of Taurus. It's exalted in that sign. It likes being in that sign. It just feels very earthy, very solid, very grounded. So even if you're feeling frustrated, you can still feel grounded. Early in the day, like 6 a.m. Eastern time, the moon and Mercury, that frustrated Mercury, are in a square aspect. And so it just means that, yeah, give yourself a break. Let it just happen. Move through it. Mm-hmm. And then the moon will make right about midday. Yeah, here's 11:36 is when the moon makes its trine aspect over there to Mars. So that's a nice earthy trine, and that feels nice and grounded. So even though we could feel a little frustrated, like I said, if you just take that key back out of the lock and don't try and force anything, and just take some time to problem solve whatever is creating frustration in your life, you're going to feel much better. And then we end the week on Sunday, July 20th. I am going out to the Isles of Shoals on that day with a friend. We are going on a big boat. Well, it's just a little steamship. It's only 10 miles off the shore, but go spend the day on an island. Just for the day. I can't wait. And Moon in Gemini just gives us, it makes a conjunction to Uranus as soon as it enters Gemini at 6 in the morning, then at 7 in the morning. And then as it conjuncts that Uranus, at 7, and it sextiles. Here, I'm going to show you it sextiles the Saturn and Neptune. And then it makes, what else? And then it trines Pluto. So all of these planets in early numbers, you see them here. When the moon enters the sign of Gemini throughout the day, well, once it enters throughout the day, it's going to be activating a fair amount of movement. Gemini is about curiosity and communication and movement and information. And that's a lot, right? So play with it and have fun and enjoy your Sunday, July 20th, by having a lot of conversations with people and just relax a little bit. Don't take life too serious. You can take it as serious as you want, but you don't have to. And that's what we get when the moon is in Gemini, conjunct Uranus, sextile these guys. It's coming into, well, it's not a sextile to the sun, but I'm going to stop the share right there. Lots of insight there. So it gives us that great opportunity to really feel the sense um, of like connection and playfulness and just being able to express ourselves fully, and just enjoy yourself and just, yeah, have a good Sunday, because that really is what we want to do. And it's the last day that the sun is in the sign of, let me come back to that chart. That's the last day that the sun is in the sign of Cancer, because it only takes one more day and it enters the sign of Leo. Yeah, on the 21st. And we'll talk about that when we get to it. But in the meantime, yeah, have a good weekend here. And I'm posting this on July 9th. What's that last little word about July 9th? I don't know. Let's take a look. Let's get my ephemeris open one more time. Oh yeah, we have a Capricorn moon. We're working with a Capricorn moon. That's in last week's forecast, so you can go play and have fun with that too. But yeah, because it's just very, very business and work oriented. So when we get to the weekend of this weekly's forecast, which again is July 19 and 20, play, have fun, enjoy it, and it will help us because it's Mercury, which is retrograde, and the moon in Gemini. Mercury rules Gemini, gives us this opportunity just to have a nice social weekend. Fingers crossed that you can do that for yourself and you can enjoy it. All right, everybody. For those of you who are watching this and who have watched to the end, thank you very much. I appreciate your support in the platforms that you're on. The very last day of these weeks, I will post this a few hours before the day is over, so you can see what you're missing. And this is part of my marketing too. So that's why you're seeing it late. If you want to see it early, join us at tier 3 or 4 on Patreon or tier 2 on YouTube. And I would appreciate your support there. And thank you for those of you who are already members. Thank you so much. It's what's keeping me afloat right now because things are quiet. It's quiet in the summer. Blessings, everybody, and namaste.